The lightning storm that came through for High Park put the Stewart Hole fire out. So if you, progression-wise, there was the Hewlett fire, and then we had a smaller Stewart Hole fire that was off of ADC, and then as that was winding down, the lightning storm came in and started High Park. So I was the IC of Stewart Hole, and then I released everybody and got home that Friday night, and I was doing my report for Stewart Hole Saturday morning on the picnic table, and the page went off for High Park. So I headed that direction. By then they located the fire up 44H of where it was at that point 3 to 5 acres, burning pretty aggressively. So we kind of made a plan between Dave, myself, the U.S. Forest Service, and Risk Canyon of what was taking place. Dave would be IC at this point. A U.S. Forest Service individual was going to be operations, and then I was going to be the structure protection side. That was when we left. Then when we got to Paradise Park, all things kind of changed, just because at that point it was a running active crown fire. Structures were immediately threatened. We came into the mission of solely getting people out of the way. And we're realizing, you know, based on the experience we had with Hewlett Fire and Stewart Hole, of the time lags that it took for people to evacuate. So we started very proactively doing that based on past experiences of the incidents we had, which was really beneficial. Still a smaller group of responders. There were probably 100, 120 for the first couple days. So, you know, our number one priority was keeping those folks safe, not only the responders and getting citizens out. We weren't really doing much suppression. We were more getting people out of the way and doing more point protection. Like if a home was threatened, we'd put the fire out and move to the next one. Not saying that the home would be there when we came back, but just limited number of resources. Where it was burning was pretty inaccessible. And a lot of the area it was burning in was one of the more hazardous areas that we had in Larimer County, with potential for loss. We were doing the triage scenario, picking the homes that we knew could safely be defended and going down the roads that we safely knew. They're very dynamic. A lot of the people were asked to do things outside their comfort zone due to how thin the resources were stretched. As you can imagine, communications were overwhelmed. People trying to gather situation awareness. I mean, when the fire was burning actively in all these different directions, trying to keep situation awareness on the ground was really hard. It wasn't until we were able to fly it that we could get pictures or visual of really what was taking place and what was the next threatened area. It took almost 2.5 hours to drive from one side to the next. So by the time you would try to gather situation awareness of what was happening, it's changed very drastically just due to the time. And you know, when we had the same 100 and some responders on 3,000 acres, the same 100 and some responders were now on 40,000 acres. So everybody was spread very thin, and that's where the decisions got made that, hey, we're not going to go down that road, we're not going to go in these areas, we're not going to do certain things just because we don't have the resources and due to the current burning conditions. So that second day is probably the day where the majority of all the homes were destroyed. You know, you're looking at it as, you know, our primary responsibility in responding is for the responder safety and the citizen safety. And we use the appropriate resource for the appropriate tactic. So what we did is we concentrated all the resources, any house that you could see along pavement, along Risk Canyon, and the spur roads, if you could see them, you could go, but kind of the rule of thumb that we made is that you had to be able to see pavement to get back. So that's why when you drive up Risk Canyon, majority of all the homes were protected along the main road going up Risk Canyon. And those decisions are just based made on safety and the type of experience your incoming resources are and who they are. Because by then, most of these resources were 24, 36 hours into this without really a break. So there was the fatigue factor, there was just the overall shock factor of, you know, here we have an initial attack fire that is now in the 40,000 acre side, that in an area where we knew was one of the most hazardous in Larimer County. I mean, each one of those subdivisions would have been a huge issue by itself, but to have them all happening at the same time, that get back to the complexity of like, and you just kind of pull back and you regroup Like, what can we do? And the decisions were made to just get people out of the way. And until conditions changed, or until something diminished, weather, fuel, weather, topography, something changed the fire behavior, there was little that we could do. I don't know if you ever move on from it. I think it wasn't, it was an experience. It was a humbling experience for everybody that does this. I think people just, you tried your best, and no matter what you do, you're going to be second guessed, and that's okay. That's how you learn on these things. You identified areas where you could have did better. You hopefully make changes so that the next time you're more prepared. The experience level of the firefighters that were involved is exponentially higher than it was prior to the event, which is a positive for the next steps. The confidence. I think everybody, is dealing with different aspects of it personally. But I don't know if you ever really recover from it. I think it's always part of you. You were part of it. It was an experience. And in a way, I don't think you want to recover from it. I think it's now just, it's part of your life, and it's part of who makes you who you are, and it's part of all your decisions you're going to make going forward.